XDC, the underestimated blockchain in the billion-dollar tokenization market. If you take tokenization seriously, you can't ignore XDC. Because while many other projects only present ideas, XDC is already bringing real companies, real bonds, and actual financial products onto the blockchain today. Anyone who misses this trend might miss out on the most important market of the coming years. In this video, you'll find out why XDC is currently underestimated and what it means if the market really explodes. Welcome to 10x Crypto, your channel for honest, data-driven altcoin analyses. Today we're talking about the XDC Network, a blockchain that many overlook even though it solves real problems and is already being used in actual financial processes. XDC is an open blockchain network that was built so that companies can work with it. It is compatible with Ethereum, and it has an energy-efficient mechanism for fast and inexpensive transactions. What's special is that XDC specializes in business-to-business trade. So for example, banks and suppliers, but of course large companies really need something different here as well. For example, the exchange of documents, trading goods, or financing invoices. In the real world, this often takes days. Paper has to be sent, data has to be checked, and this is exactly where the problem lies. The world of trade still works with old systems, many intermediate steps, lots of bureaucracy. That makes everything expensive and slow. But XDC offers a solution for this. It digitizes processes and turns documents into digital, legally valid assets. This is called tokenization, and this very market is going to become huge in the coming years. So XDC brings not only technology, but real-world applications, for example, the tokenization of bonds or agricultural assets, financial services or receivables between companies. The innovation of XDC lies in the fact that these processes are mapped quickly, securely, and in a standardized way. And all that at extremely low costs. Before we get started together, grab yourself a relaxing coffee and leave a like for me. And if you want to discover interesting altcoin gems early, then check out the 10x Elite. There you'll get insight into my personal crypto portfolio, so you can see exactly which projects I'm actually invested in. Then you get access to the 10x ranking list. I've rated over 100 altcoins there as a percentage, all in one ranking. Then you can also use the 10 times indicator. You already know that one from my videos. And in addition, in the 10x Elite, I also provide, for example, market updates as well as information about my own trades. On top of that, there's the 10 times Gem Radar, where I showcase exciting low-cap altcoins early on before they hit the mainstream. So if you want to move away from speculation and chance and prefer to rely on data, structure, and strategy, then 10x Elite is the next logical step for you. And right now, you can get 30% off your first month with the code 10x. You'll find all the information in the video description right at the very first link. But a quick disclaimer, my channel is not financial advice, but purely for informational purposes. As always, let's take a look at the market cap. What does it look like? Currently, the market cap for XDC is around 900 million, which means it's more in the mid-cap range. Mid-caps usually offer good stability while still having growth potential. Especially important, the market for tokenization is estimated to be worth several trillion. So XDC is perfectly positioned in this space. A strong number 8, the circulating supply. Here we have a total of 38 billion XTC, of which 18.52 billion are in circulation. That's about 48.7%. So they're already above my important 30% threshold. Which means the risk isn't that high. A strong 8 here. Let's move on to the next point, the roadmap. The roadmap is realistic and is regularly met. Important points, for example, the XTC 2.0 upgrade, expanded staking functionality and integration of USDC, but also the development for real-world assets. Here, there are tangible achievements. These definitely confirm the implementation, a strong 9. Then let's move on to the next point, the team. The core team consists of experienced founders with a strong background in financial technology as well as blockchain development. Important names like Ritish Kakad or Atul Kirti are definitely on board. All have clear roles and proven successes, a strong 8. Now let's move on to the narrative. XDC addresses the strongest narrative in the market, the documentation of real-world assets. In addition, there's trade finance, cross-border payments, and regulatory compatibility with ISO 2002. That makes the project extremely relevant, especially for many years to come. A strong 9. So what problem are they solving? XDC solves clear problems in global trade. It's slow, paper-based, and full of manual steps. XDC digitizes invoices, bonds, and documents, making them tradable. This closes a $2.5 trillion gap in international trade. A strong 9. Then let's move on to the next point, energy efficiency. XDC uses delegated proof of stake. This mechanism is efficient and consumes only a fraction of the energy compared to traditional blockchains. This means XDC is truly below the emissions of proof of work systems, a strong 9. Next point, the investors in the capital. XDC has strong investors including LDA Capital, GTR Ventures, and Plug and Play. These partners support expansion and technological development. Here, a strong 8. Now let's move on to the competition analysis. What does that look like? The direct competitors are Ethereum, Ripple, but also VeChain, as well as private networks like Corda. However, XDC positions itself with low-cost transactions, fast processing, and a clear focus on tokenization. For detailed analyses. On the other hand, where I've analyzed other altcoins, take a look at the plays, the 10x universe. In this area, definitely a strong 8. What about marketing? In marketing, they focus on B2B marketing. Events, conferences, partnerships with institutions, in other words, less focus on aggressive social media campaigns. Here, just a solid 7. Next point, how simple is the idea actually? The basic idea is clear. Digital representation of real financial assets. That makes XDC easy to understand even for new investors. A strong 8. What about the long-term vision? XDC wants to become the global standard for digital trade processes, including tokenization, digital identities, and financial documents. In other words, the vision is clear, long-term, and realistic. A strong 9. So what about the tokenomics and deflation? Here, XDC doesn't have a fixed maximum, meaning new tokens are created through masternode rewards, and deflation occurs via token burns. About 20% of the fees are burned. The model is stable, but not purely deflationary, so only a 6. Next point, FDV, how does that look? The fully diluted market cap is about 1.87 billion, which is roughly twice as high as the current market cap. So XDC isn't overvalued here, a solid 9. Then what about the trading volume? The trading volume is ultimately at $27 million daily. This means there's high liquidity, so active interest, a good 8. Next, how was the token distribution and what about the vesting periods? 40% went to the team, which is quite high, but with clear vesting periods of about 3% per year. At least this creates transparency and reduces selling pressure. A 7 here. Then, what about the top coin holders? The largest wallets hold a very large share of the total supply, which is suboptimal. Of course, this increases the risk of market manipulation. That's why it's only a 5 here as well. Next, what about the use and utility of the token, of the coin? XDC is used for transaction fees, staking, tokenization, payments, and digital contracts. In other words, the utility is extremely broad and is already being used in practice. A strong 9. Next point, the community. It is growing steadily, especially on X and on YouTube. High activity. Are you yourself an XDC holder or a fan of the altcoin shop? Write it in the comments so others become aware of videos and analyses like this. Here, a solid 8. Then the next point, the events, the upcoming events. The most important events in the coming months. XDC 2.0 update, new RWA projects, partnerships in the financial sector, growing tokenization projects, for example in Latin America or Asia. A strong 8. XDC reaches 80.5% on my Zenix ranking list. That's a good score for an altcoin in the field of tokenization and especially digital financial systems. We've seen that XDC is clearly a specialist, a project with real-world operations in global trade that is ultimately digitizing the financial world. And that's one of the strongest trends in the entire blockchain market, even up to 2030. Now let's go through the different price scenarios together, the bear scenario. This is the worst realistic case. Imagine the market remains rather uncertain. Large investors are pulling out their money. Regulations are slowing down innovation. Projects are growing more slowly than many hope. In such a situation, even a good altcoin can come under pressure. In this case, it could reach 3 cents US dollars. Let's move on to the normal scenario. The market is expecting rather solid, sustainable growth, growing in a healthy way. Not too fast, but not too slow either. Companies are adopting blockchain step by step, and XDC remains part of this development. In such a normal environment, XDC moves steadily upward. In that case, about 0.1 US dollars would be possible. Then let's move on to the optimistic scenario, a strong market environment. DeFi is booming. In this scenario, a lot of things are going right. The crypto market is experiencing another strong phase. DeFi is also growing. Companies are actively looking for blockchain solutions. Demand is rising. XDC especially benefits from the tokenization of real-world applications. Here, the price range is clear, 0.5 US dollars. Now let's move on to the very optimistic scenario. Massive growth through adoption. Imagine if blockchain became as normal as online banking is today. Companies around the world are relying on the tokenization of financial products. These are becoming digital, and XDC is one of those networks making this transformation possible. If adoption grows this much, XDC could reach entirely new levels. Here they could reach 2 US dollars. Now, as always, let's move on to the Vision 2030. We're looking far ahead, not just 1 year, but all the way to 2030. By then, tokenization might already be standard. Large companies want to digitize their financial processes. BlackRock, for example, is absolutely determined to implement this. In this case, XDC could of course become one of the infrastructure plays. In this long-term scenario, it could really reach new heights, if price targets of up to 5 US dollars are mathematically possible. Now we come to my chart analysis, but first, let's take a look at what's happening now. How would I proceed? What is the current situation? Everything right now. Hello and welcome to the chart analysis of the XDC network. First of all, I use TradingView and a tough self-developed indicator. Let's dive straight into the chart. We saw here, this was in May 2025 of this year. A lot of people sold here. A large green dot formed here. On my indicator, that means an oversold zone was reached. That would have been a pretty good entry point for me personally. Then we pushed upwards to about, let's see, it was roughly here. That was about 77% to the upside. Up here, my indicator also showed red dots. That means we're in overbought zones. In other words, a lot of people are buying. We're getting back into the hype, into FOMO and so on. This is then displayed as data neutral here. For me, that's a sign that, okay, now might be a good time to exit a bit or at least take some partial profits. In any case, we were then pushed down massively afterwards. How many percent? Let's take a look at that. That was 54%. At the moment, the situation looks as follows. We've seen that we formed several dots here, but so far we haven't been able to break out sustainably. Still, there was always a small pump to the upside. At the moment, we've formed a small green dot, which basically means that a bullish trend reversal could be imminent. So actually, it's quite a good starting position. Still, I personally would be very cautious right now. First of all, we haven't yet moved out of the oversold zone. Secondly, we simply need the liquidity from the Federal Reserve of America. So for now, I would be cautious. As for when I get into altcoins like XDC, for example, or when I invest in Bitcoin, meaning I do dollar cost averaging there regularly. I always invest when the big green dot appears on Bitcoin, so I really invest based on data and not on emotions. In any case, you can see all of this in my 10x Elite membership. By the way, you also get access to the 10x indicator there, but you can also buy the indicator separately if you want. You'll find all the information you need in the video description above, with both links right there. Before you go, I have another altcoin here that is extremely interesting. I really recommend you check out the analysis for it. It has some exciting features. So, thank you very much for watching and see you in a bit.